Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I am super excited to be doing another collab. Let me just invite Linda in here. Here she is. Um, Leadership and entrepreneurship and taking brave action. Hello. I'm just waiting for her to come on out. Here she is. I have to say, I've been loving doing all these collabs. There's wild this morning. Hi. Okay, let's see. Accept. Turning up my volume. Where is she? Yeah, I've been loving doing all these collabs. It's been super fun and part of my Instagram strategy just to expand my outreach and get in front of new people. And in the process, I'm also meeting some amazing people, and it's been really fun talking about topics that I might not talk about normally. Unable to join. What is going on? This is the first time that it's not working. Oh, here she is. Hi.
Here we
Oh,
are.
I
Hi.
have to
Yeah,
adjust where I'm sitting
yeah. Yeah,
here.
me too. I'm like, what?
I like cuts off wherever you are.
Yeah. And I'm cozy, cuddle up on my sofa for this one. So we'll see. So happy to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. So, yeah, I'm so excited to do this. I'm so excited to dive in, talk about leadership and taking brave action. Before we start, do you want to just give everyone a quick overview of who you are and your backstory as an entrepreneur?
Oh, yes. So I'm Linda Jacobsen, and I'm the founder of Venus Rising, my brand. And I am an energetics, empowerment, leadership coach for entrepreneurs or soul-led women who know that they are born to rise. And I mean, there's so much I could say about my journey, this work. I'm originally from Sweden, born and raised in Stockholm. But at a pretty young age, I opened my eyes up to, spirituality, metaphysics, and then I traveled the world and I became a licensed social worker and counselor because I've always had this passion to support people. But once I was done with that officially, had my degree and everything, I fell in love and I actually moved to Mexico where I started a restaurant with my now ex-husband. So I've lived 10 years in Mexico where I had my two spirited children. And on that path of following one's heart, I came to this place about 5, 6 years ago when it was really time to take the leap into my own calling and take my soul's work to the next level. So since then, I've been very devoted to this path of soul-led entrepreneurship and really supporting the person behind the business, because what I love to do most and what I see as like most important and as the missing piece for so many, it's not that we need a better strategy or to do more. We need to really get out of overthinking and overwhelm and the self-doubt and take more hot, messy, aligned action, right? Make more moves and know how to hold our personal power and self-leadership and the frequency of what we're calling in, not just when manifestations are flowing in and the money and the sales are flowing in, but also in the moments when that seems to not be happening. So yeah,
Love
that's
it.
a little short about me. I'm also an astrologer, so
Oh,
yeah, I that's part of what I do as well. Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. I have a background in marketing, and that's like
Mm-hmm.
my bread and butter, but you cannot do anything without also talking about this, especially with leadership and taking inspired action and just taking the first step because um, when you're putting yourself out there online, you have to be brave enough to take that first step. You have to be able to trust in what you're selling, what you're teaching, what you're doing, enough to put it out there. And when someone says no, or if you're, it seems like you're talking to an empty room, you can
Mm-hmm.
quit and believe in yourself. So I always say I love the strategy through and through. Like, I will give you all the strategy, but I also will give you the work that will help you build that confidence to keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of people out there are like, just give me the strategy, just give me this band-aid that I can slap on and like I'll be set for life. But it's way more than that. You can learn the strategy and the strategy will adapt with you, but you also need to learn that daily work, that inner work to, like you said, keep your inner critic down and continue to take action,
Mm-hmm.
stay in your power. So yeah, I love that. What would you say is like the number one thing you love to help your clients with?
One of the absolute like favorite things is to teach people and support with the integration of what I call inner alchemy, or how we can turn shame, sabotage, and scarcity spirals into power portals. Like how to actually take those moments of contraction when we're feeling the self-doubt or the scarcity, like there's not enough, which is really the fucking lack matrix. That's one of my like passion points, how to help myself and others to exit the lack matrix, the never enough, right? I'm not enough, there's not enough time, clients, money, whatever, inspiration, and actually turn that contraction when we feel the doubt, the not enoughness, however it comes up, into a power portal, how to move through powerfully. Because often it's said in this self-development, we could call it space, right, that feeling is healing, and it's definitely true. But I believe we also need to learn how to not drown in our emotions, like how to actually move through them, right? So that's one of my favorite topics of really diving into how we can turn scarcity, sabotage, shame spirals into power portals. Because it's pretty easy to either like get caught up in the locomotion of the feelings because it feels so real, like the experience of scarcity or not enoughness. When it comes, it's like it's so real, even though it's just a thought in your head, you experience it as very real. So we get to validate that. And the other thing is like, but there's a tendency to get caught up in it and actually believe it. And I always say, like, your thoughts don't create your reality. The fact that you believe them does, right? And I was saying to yesterday, I said to someone, I'm like, I'm a world-class overthinker, but I still manifest like a badass because I know that I'm not my thoughts, right? So it's that capacity of how to actually be with our feelings and thoughts, not rejecting them, shaming, shunning ourselves, but not getting caught up in them either. Because the other side is that we're like, oh my God, I cannot feel this, right? If I go there, and for people who are on this path of self-discovery and self-mastery and conscious creation, whether it be through your business or through the way you live your life, can be easy to think, if I go in and feel that, I'm going to lower my frequency and I'm going to attract more of that shit. But honestly, if we're not alchemizing and transmuting it, it's going to stay there beaming in your frequency, and it's still gonna affect what we experience in our life. So how to dare to go in and feel things and not reject ourselves or shame ourselves. Like, how many of us haven't, I mean, I just sat with this, we've just been in this eclipse portal.
Oh,
And Mercury retrograde, this one was like, oh my God, like it's been intense. Like, I think we're all this year, and maybe we could talk about that in a second. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I feel like this year is really a year where so many of us are making leaps or kind of pivoting or expanding in different ways because of the times we are in. And we've just like, oh my God, really done so much expansive work. And I was sitting with that myself just the last couple of weeks. There were so many thoughts of, I should know better. I shouldn't feel this way. I should be further ahead.
yeah.
Why is this happening to me, kind of thing? And I noticed, oh my God, I still hold shame here. Like, this is exactly, I need to coach myself or, through this. So yeah, inner alchemy work, how to be powerful enough to actually turn these spirals into power portals. That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. like on the surface level, if people just started to dabble in some of this work, they think you have to be in that positivity 100% of the time. And anytime you dip into the anxiety or the self doubt, you're going to manifest more of that. And that's the value behind really getting in someone's world who's good at this, because, you know, that's not true. And
Mhm.
that's actually like the fact you want to be dipping in and feeling them, and so that you can, you know, move through them and forgive them and everything. And I have had many clients come to me and ask, like, well, what do I do when I'm having an off week and like I can't motivate myself to create content, or I'm so uninspired, what do I do? And I think there's like this idea that a lot of entrepreneurs have, that they think once I hit 10K months or 20K, whatever, once I have financial freedom, then
Mhm.
I'll not be thinking these things. But it never goes away. The
No.
work never, there's new challenges, there's new things that pop up,
Yeah.
new beliefs that pop up. So what I love to teach is, you know, some people teach batching content for every, you know, day of their life, but it doesn't work for everybody. But something that I do like to have is when you, because I'm very intuitive with the way I work, when you are
Mhm.
feeling that hit of inspiration and you're like so in love with your business and you want to just tap into your clients and create content and like tell stories, instead of doing that all in one week and like posting 60 pieces of content, I call it
Mm.
vault. Like I will just put ideas in, create them for later, for those moments when you're not feeling as inspired. And I was literally just talking to a client through this as well, and she was like, oh, I never even thought about that. And like once you, sometimes when
Mm.
you start that first act of just like writing, it can be so therapeutic. And content writing can be like some of that transmutation that you're talking about.
Mhm.
Um, like while you're writing it and helping your audience, you're helping yourself as well, which is so powerful. I love
Yeah.
talking about, you know, the stuff that you put out there in your business, and also the energetic and mindset work behind it.
Yes, exactly. And I love what you're saying, because for me, how I envision this world that we are co-creating and going forward into, you know, I think most of us feel that we are at the edge of a shift where we're here to shift the paradigm, right? We could call it new earth or whatever. And I'm like, it's not like we're going to arrive to new earth. New earth arrives through us. So part of that is like through the lens of business is for me daring to be real and authentic and tapping into the truth and actually using those challenges as part of the content creation, right? Because what I've come to see on my own journey and supporting so many clients over the years, it's like our wounds or the things that we seem to struggle with, as long as it's not a bleeding wound, like we don't want to serve from a bleeding wound, it can get messy, but the things like that we are actually most equipped to support others with are often things that we tend to kind of circle back to ourselves. So how to take that you know, struggle and actually from an empowered place turn it into content that deeply speaks to the people that you are here to work with, right? So that they can feel you. But it's very, and I believe that you're amazing at this, how to talk about the stories,
Yeah.
right, in an empowered way as well. So it's not like coming from this, like you're not, you know, you're not talking about things in a way that from a victim mindset, but actually from an empowered place. And that's deeply connected, because vulnerability is connective tissue after all. You know, if you read anything about Brene Brown's work, people listening to this, I mean, she talks about shame and vulnerability and so many beautiful things. And vulnerability is connective tissue in our relationships and also with our audience, right? But for me, yeah, like you're saying, that feminine leadership, or whatever we choose to call it, is that capacity to be both vulnerable and empowered and to share from that place and to create from that place. It's so connective, right? People are like, oh my God, what do you got going on? Like, I want a piece of that.
Yeah.
So have you
Yeah.
seen that with your clients? Like, or, because I know you're amazing at what you do. So I would love to hear, you know.
Yeah, so something that I help clients with is telling their audience's story instead of
Mm-hmm,
it's their own story through the lens of their audience as the main
mm-hmm,
character. So, you know, like you said, a lot of people hear storytelling content and they think, oh, I have to tell this story that's alive for me right now. And they kind of position themselves as in the thick of it,
mm-hmm.
and it brings them down. they're not positioned as a leader, they're not positioned as the authority, because it's too real and raw for them. They're still in the fields, they haven't come out the other side.
Mm.
Sorry,
Oh,
my time app thing shut my Instagram off. It was like
oh.
too long. Um, so yeah, so people tell stories that are like they're too much,
Mm,
and instead, what I love doing is finding like zooming in story points is what I call them. Little tiny stories that happen daily for your ideal client or your dream client. So,
mm,
for example, if someone is trying to lose weight and every morning they are skipping breakfast because they're too busy to create a nutritious meal and they're just trying to get their kids out the door, that's a wonderful story point where you can come in and bring your own story in there and how you can relate to them how you thought you had to skip meals to lose weight or whatever, and it's actually the opposite is true, and
mm,
tell the story from that framework. And that positions you as an authority, as a leader, because you have
mhm.
walked the
Yeah.
walk. And there's so many
Yeah.
people out there right now that are like selling these courses that they've just bought to resell. And they're like, here, make money online, but they've never done it themselves. So
Yeah.
telling stories, putting your work out there that's embodied, that you've done, that you live and breathe, that like lights you up, that you love, that's always going to be stronger than, telling a story that you haven't finished or you haven't lived yet.
Totally. Yes, I love it. Like embodiment is felt after all. And when you can speak from that place, it's like felt. We are all energetic beings. So we pick up. I always say like energy is like the thing that's like it's like perfume all over your content. You can't see it, but everybody picks up on it. So I see something that happens as well as I tend to help my clients get out of overthinking and overwhelm and like self-doubt. Uh, into taking action. But, if we're taking action from a place of trying to prove, that lack matrix again can show up as having like proving, performing
Yeah.
tendencies, right? Like we have to talk about this because often we shame ourselves for that and then we can't really alchemize it and get to the other side. But, and it's like we're trying to sell something that we don't really embody because underneath that, the the deeper layer, the actual, issue is that we don't really see ourselves as enough and what you already know and what you already embody as enough. So you're like, I'm just going to slap on a couple of more things, right? Instead of I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you, grow a 6-figure year, but you haven't had that. And, I'm not saying it necessarily always is misaligned because sometimes you can help people create outcomes that you haven't, nailed in the entirety of it yourself. For example, you could talk about messaging and supporting people on all levels with their messaging. But if you're selling, for example, business coaching and like a whole thing, and you haven't really grounded that, it's, you can say all the right things, but it doesn't really resonate with your people because you don't have that embodiment. So it's like you're giving yourself a pay cut. Right? Don't give yourself a pay cut by not focusing on embodiment first. And it really, for me, as I see it, is this deeper layer of like, I'm not enough. So I'm just going to add things. Or, it can also show up as this like, I'm adding things to my offer and then I don't really want to deliver it because it feels kind of heavy. It's
Yeah.
like, it's this and that and this and this because it's like, oh, it's that underlying feeling of I'm not enough. So when we can go there and shift that, it's like, oof, there's this expansion and clarity that creates more alignment, more embodiment, right? So yeah.
Yeah. It's the show, don't tell. I always say experts don't have to tell you they're an expert. They're just showing you
Mm,
what they know and their expertise. There's, like you said, so many people out there that are in this convincing energy of trying to be like, but buy, they're putting content out every single day, trying to convince people to buy their programs. And then at the end of the week, they're feeling disappointed because no one's buying. And there's almost a sense of entitlement of like, well, I posted every single day. I said this, and
mm,
all the right things. Why aren't people buying? And it's that we always goes back to the unembodied or disembodied. And, you know, that like, it's not enoughness. It's not enough.
mm.
I'm I think what I'm doing is enough, but it's clearly not enough because people aren't buying, and then they kind of got into that spiral.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we got to get real with ourselves because obviously that's the first step, right? of truth, of actually being truthful with ourselves so that we can shift. Because if we're not, yeah, when we're bullshitting ourselves, we can't really access our power. And that's what tends to happen, right? We're like, when we're feeling resentful or we're feeling disappointed, and it's like we're creating a layer of emotion around the core emotion, which is I'm not enough. And we don't want to feel that because it feels so icky. So we're like doing the things we think we have to do, and then we don't get the result, right? And then we feel more disappointment, frustration. And it's like that added layer is what makes it really heavy instead of going to the core. But we tend to have these like protective belief systems around why we shouldn't go to the feeling. So this is what I love to do, to actually get people to the core of it so we can transmute where it matters. Because at the end of the day, right, it's so much better to actually feel what you're feeling and move through that than not doing it and end up feeling disappointment or resentment or frustration anyways,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Here, you said earlier that you help people transmute the feelings, the energy, the stories
Mm-hmm.
into power portals. Can you,
Mm-hmm.
how would you know if you're in a power portal, and what does that look like?
Well, it looks like, or it feels
Yeah.
like a release, right? It feels like an expansion. It feels like a moment of clarity. Um, and it happens by being able to go to the core emotion, like shifting and actually seeing what are the beliefs that I'm holding around this emotion. So I can just take myself as an example, just quickly, as what was something that came up for me the other week. I was feeling kind of small and stuck, and I was like, I don't want to feel it because I should be further ahead. I've been on this journey for a long time. I've been through so much in my life. I blah, 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 blah. I have so many reasons why I shouldn't feel this way, but I was feeling that way. And I was rejecting feeling that way. But the truth of the matter was I don't like to feel small and stuck, because when I was a child, and of course, this is a spillover from past lifetimes. I mean, depending on how you look at the world, but that's how I see it. It wasn't safe for me to feel that way, because I heard when I was a kid from my dad, who was trying to make me get ahead in life, but in his very emotionally impaired way. Like, if you do this, you will get that. If you do a really good job and you do these things and you get good grades, for example, I will support you. And if you don't, I won't. And he said that in many different ways. But, we have this beliefs that we adapted in childhood often. And for me, then it's like, I don't want to feel small or stuck because it's not safe. Because if I feel that way, I'm going to lose provision, I'm going to lose love, and I'm going to lose support. So that's where I need to go to feel, to actually clear up my shit so that I can move forward with my business, because I'm like realigning. I'm working with a coach now. It's amazing. It's always good to get support, right? It's because I'm realigning and revamping my services and such. And that's where I needed to go. But I was like, I don't want to go there because I have this belief, right?
Yeah.
If I feel that way, I'm going to lose provision and love and support, which is the exact thing I'm trying to create. But of course, that's the like icky belief thing that is trying to protect you, but is really preventing you. So this is the thing. We need to go where it matters and just feel the feeling and see the truth on the other side. Because the truth is, obviously, you are powerful, you are capable, you matter, you arrived worthy, and nothing has changed. God has a niche carved out just for you, right? When you are being you, like, you've got this, like all of these things, we can feel it when we say that, like, that's the truth. That's the power portal, because on that other end of the scarcity, this shame, like there is this exact opposite, which is the truth. So it's a little tricky, or I'm like, I hope it makes sense, like, yeah,
Yeah.
because of course this can come up in so many different ways, but it's like that's the alchemy process of moving to the other side. The truth is usually often the opposite of what you're actually thinking and feeling. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the power portal.
I love that. And give me, if people watching this, if you relate to that story, like give us a yes in the comment section, or give us some heart, something. Because I know I do. When I grew up, I also was very type A,
Mm-hmm.
overachiever, perfectionist, got the good
Mm-hmm.
grades, captain of the team, went to good,
Mm-hmm.
all the things.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And starting my business, people say this all the time. Your business is going to be like your biggest therapy moment
Yes.
because you're going to so much stuff that comes up and the wounds of stuff, the perfectionist, the overachieving, attaching
Yes.
your feelings to your results, it all comes up in your business.
Totally. And that's what I always say. Business or entrepreneurship is a spiritual growth journey
And,
on steroids. Welcome to the fast track. Like, let's fucking go.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know earlier that you talked about, we briefly mentioned the eclipse and you said you have background in astrology. So I'd love to hear your talk on this because it was super heavy and my birthday also was a week after the eclipse. So it was like everything was coming up for me.
Oh my
But
God.
so much
Happy
lighter.
birthday.
You know, I definitely I've processed hundred of lives in the last month, you
Yes.
know. So I'm curious how the eclipse kind of affects us, especially as entrepreneurs, and what we can expect moving forward.
Well, I could just say briefly that this year, in January this year, Pluto moved into Aquarius, and that's a game changer. So that is reverberating through all of us as a call towards more authenticity, towards your own creative genius, towards doing your own thing. Yes, strategy matters. Yes, there are business principles that's always going to support you, but like doing your own thing, right? And actually really, stepping into your own zone of genius. Like we're in this like kind of another kind of like birth contraction for this new paradigm. And then we got into this eclipse season, which has had so much to do with identity shifts, right? On the pole of, or the axis of Aries, Libra. So the eclipses were huge identity shifters and putting us on the path of personal power, which is related to the archetype of Aries, the North Node, which is our collective point of evolution right now. If you want to know your evolutionary pathway, like look at the nodal axis in your own birth chart. But collectively, the North Node, which is kind of the North Star, our collective point of evolution right now is in Aries. So that is about me first, meaning I put myself for alignment to what? My truth, right? My self-expression. Going first, being brave, becoming brave, like stop waiting for permission, waiting for other people's validation, stepping into more personal power, self-leadership, and all of this. So obviously we got like a slap in the face of where we are not holding this, right? Where we are ready to shift, change, release more of these pleasing, proving, chasing patterns within ourselves. So we were like, yeah, that was the eclipses were a lot about that. And eclipses also tend to eclipse things in or out of your life. They are alignments onto your destiny path. I call them, they're like cosmical chiropractical adjustments, right? Like clack, onto your destiny path. So yeah, that we've been in the thick of it, and it comes down to a lot of identity shifts. And then Mercury went retrograde, which from my point of view, Mercury retrograding in Aries was a lot about seeing our inner dialogue and whether it's supporting you or not, right? Mercury relates to our logical linear mind, our lower mind, and the way we process information, take in information, and also how we communicate and commerce as well. And the inner dialogue in our mind, right? So we also had like a calling from the soul to really see what's the inner dialogue I'm entertaining, and is it supporting my next level? Is it supporting my personal power, my leadership? It's so we had a lot of insights around that, and it felt a little messy for most of us, right? Oh my God. And then now that Mercury has gone direct, even if we're in the shadow period, we're kind of out of the eclipse portal, with a full moon in Scorpio that we also had like 2 days ago, right? Was it? Yeah. Now it's like, okay, so much identity shifting. We're in this integration and let's fucking go period. So do you hear me? Do you feel it? Like, would you agree?
Yes, that's exactly what I've been feeling, that I've been coaching my clients through, indirectly. I do not have a big background in astrology, but it's the same things coming up over and over again with all my clients. myself with the people in my mastermind, they're all going through these identity shifts, and it was so
Mm-hmm.
hard. It felt like we were really like in the mud, in the thick of it, but
Mm-hmm.
it definitely feels like it's been lifted, and now it's like, let's fricking go, which is
Yeah.
really exciting. What would you say? How would you say, or how would you define leadership for you? And what does that look like in your business, in your life?
Yeah. So one of the main definitions of leadership for me is being able to hold a vision for what you want, for where you're going, right? Before the vision has manifested. A leader is someone who can hold the vision for where we are going or for where you are going without needing to see proof or validation for it first, right? This takes bravery, this takes courage, and it takes being able to hold your personal power. So leadership for me is also then being able to powerfully move yourself through the moments when you don't feel connected to your power, right? Leading yourself through these moments back into alignment. Leadership for me, and the leadership that, I mean, we could say, like, if someone's looking for a niche, like, we're in the need of authentic, empowered leadership, like the leadership that we see modeled on the big stages is corrupt. So there is a need for people to rise into leadership. And so it's a calling, and I know that many of us feel this calling in our heart and soul to rise into leadership, but then it could be like, but what does it mean? And we can have this kind of outdated, antique, old paradigm connotations to leadership, where it's like, it's scary, we think about some like cold CEO identity person we can't identify with, or like some politician and shit. And yeah, I see like leadership really being as someone who dares to go first, instead dares to hold the vision. It's not about being, taking power over people or telling others what to do. It's about being a role model for what
Yes.
you want to see in this world, right? Becoming the change. You stop focusing so much on other people and you start really devoting yourself to your own path of self mastery. And then you invite people into that to join you if they feel aligned. So it's like a shift from putting so much attention. And I teach a lot of metaphysics, like how reality actually works and how things are created. And a lot of that is about taking the attention off the physical world, off other people, off the outer circumstances, and putting it back into you. Like the only shift that we ever do is the inner shift. That's the only thing that's in your control. And leadership for me, and self leadership, is like focusing on that. And then you will see it reflected in the outer world, which is a mirror of your
Yeah.
consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's so hard for so many people as entrepreneurs, because what do we need to do to get clients? We need to put ourselves out there. We need to create content. We need to show up, and we get
Mm.
direct feedback of if our content is working or not. We post something, we see it only gets 200 views, and you can either attach meaning to that, or you
Mm-hmm.
can be a leader and stay in your personal power and believe in what you have and in what you want to lead people through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it doesn't matter if people are listening to you or not right now. It matters as if you believe in what you have to say, and
Mm-hmm.
how you can help people in your service, right? So some of the hardest parts of your journey as an entrepreneur, growing and scaling your business, is just staying in that personal power and believing
Mm-hmm.
without fault. Like, if someone else says something that disagrees with what you are teaching, you're not like, yeah, okay, she's right, and you like give up and you start to
Yeah.
spiral. Like, no, no, no. Okay, maybe she has that opinion, but like, I know this works for me. It's worked for my clients. It's something I believe in, and you
Mm-hmm.
double down and you stand even stronger in that, and you continue to create content. You continue to put yourself out there. You continue to invite people in, and like you said, eventually, your reality will start to mirror your subconscious, and you'll start to see, if you continue to stay in your power, it all starts to
Mm-hmm.
fall in place, and it doesn't have to be like this hard thing that you're kind of like, struggling to get.
Mm-mm.
It's really flowy and easy, and I describe it as a
Yeah.
snowball effect. Like, you first put the little pieces of snow together and create a tiny little ball, and you roll it down the hill, and it's like going little, like maybe like flops because it's uneven at
Yeah.
first. It's like flopping mountain, but then it picks up speed. It goes faster and faster, faster,
Mm-hmm.
and then it gets like a huge snowball, and it just like continues to pick up speed and snow. And yeah, that's exactly how entrepreneurship growth feels sometimes. At first, it feels awkward, it feels slow,
Mm.
but the more you keep believing in yourself, you staying in your personal power, taking leadership, taking that first step without the proof, the more you'll start to see things pick up.
Definitely. Yeah, that's manifestation is about that,
Yeah.
growing and building and holding energetic momentum towards where you're going. Ultimately, it's pretty easy, right? Energy goes where attention flows, like, or energy flows where attention goes. Where is your attention? But when we have a lot of these unprocessed parts of us, they are pulling on our attention subconsciously. That's why we need to do the work of becoming integrated, becoming more wholly, right? Whole person, so that we can actually stand in our power and hold the alignment.
Yeah.
And yeah, so much of the entrepreneurial journey is about that, in my opinion, right? And because many people that I work with, just like you said, and like me, like it's important to learn the how, but as an ambitious person, as someone who's like, okay, I can do this, and having kind of like that little perfectionistic drive, whether it be good or not, but like you know how to take in information. It's about knowing how to apply it in a way that actually feels good to you, how to keep going, right? And how to tweak and align and dare to put yourself out there, not hide behind, because ultimately if you want to magnetize, like everything that is meant for you will come to you when you are you. So much of the work, we think maybe, oh, I need this, I need that, but it's so much about unbecoming everything that life has taught you or conditioned you to be up until now, and coming back to the truth of who you are. And if we want a business, I almost say, like, I want a business that feels like an extension of my soul. I want a business that feels like home. If we are proving and performing and pretending so that we get clients, it's not going to feel that way. But if we're doing that, we need to be honest enough to say that to ourselves, and to, okay, I admit it. When we can see something, we don't shame ourselves, because of course we shame ourselves, we disconnect, and we lose our power. We are not in our power when we are disconnected. We have to be truthful. Then we can actually alchemize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're constantly putting on a face or being someone you're not when you're creating content and you're putting business there, you're going to feel burnt out. You're going to feel exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're showing up in alignment and embodied, and it feels like your soul is your home, its content becomes fun. It feels good to show up, to plug into your clients. Like, you actually get energized by it.
Mm-hmm.
And I see so many people out there that are like, I'm burnt out with my business. I don't love my business. And I just can't help but to think, like, okay, you've led yourself astray. You've maybe
Mm-hmm.
put on an identity that wasn't your own, and now it's like, go back to yourself, go back to who you are and why you started your business in the first place.
Yes. Radical self-love. We need so much self-love and self-compassion to just get back on track, right? It's not about how often you fall off. It's about how quickly you get back on track, because we are going to do things that we could classify as mistakes. But if we learn from it, it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. On Monday, I did a collab with Jenna Sinclair, and
Mm-hmm.
I asked what was one of her favorite daily practices for mindset. We were talking about money
Mm-hmm.
mindset. So very similar conversation, but I asked her what was one of her favorite daily practices that you either do in the morning or in the evening that like doesn't take hours, but just shifts you into the energy of, anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to hear what yours is.
Yeah. So I'm not big on spiritual busy work, as I say, because I see that something that people can get caught up in, and I've been in that, and I just like, oh my God, it's not my vibe, is when you think you have to do all these things and a bunch of affirmations. Like, if you love it, do whatever the fuck you want. Like, yes, if you love it, awesome. But I have a little bit of a pet peeve for that. Like, do this and that and that. And all of a sudden you think you have to do some, like hour-long practice just so you can do the other things you have to do. It's like, oh God, that's exhausting. So I love that you asked that way, like, what's the quick kind of thing? And one of the things that I continuously do is I have a process that I've developed over the year that I call just you align, you allow, you alchemize, you act. So align, allow, alchemize, act. If you rinse and repeat this, you are on the inevitable path towards results, whatever you are creating, right? So it starts with alignment to what your truth and to where you're going. Most of us, we align to the past, right? We are too caught up in what have been or what, the circumstances that we see. So just to take a moment in the morning or in the evening or even in the middle of the day, preferably when you start your day, right? To close your eyes and, if you love to put on a guided meditation, if you have one that connects you to some type of, future kind of reset, energetic calibration point, or if you like to put on some theta brainwaves, this type of thing, do that. But you could just be with yourself, drop out, because so many of us have too much energy circulating up in the mental body. So just breathe and see how the energy drains, just like water going out of a bathtub. We can all see that, or from a sink. It's like when it drains down out of your head, down into your body, and just placing a hand over your heart and just connect back to this moment and to where you're going. So what is it that you actually are aligning to and calling in your business? How do you want it to feel? Some people are great at visualizing. I'm not. I'm more of a person who connects to the feeling, like of that kind of next level of where I'm going. So I connect with that, right? So to do that work of actually coming out of your head into your body, connecting with your heart here and now, and connecting with that kind of, future timeline so that you can start to pull it towards this now. Everything already exists, right? We all know this, nothing is new under the sun.
Yeah.
The universal laws, they have been here and they're going to be here because they're part of what holds up this creation, the multiverse that we are existing in. So they're not going to change. Um, the truth is often simple. The truth is always simple, but applying it and integrating it isn't always easy. And that's why often we don't need more information. We need support with integration. So
Yes.
sometimes, it's like, I know this, yes, but are you doing it? Are you embodying it? Are you taking a moment every fucking day and connecting to yourself, to this moment and where you're going? So that's something that I find deeply helpful. And it's like, do it, and it just takes 3, 4, 5 minutes. And we want
Yeah.
to feel the feeling of the reality that we want to have in our business. We want to feel the feeling of it, like Neville Goddard, which is one of the, big names when it comes to law of assumption. He's really a Christian mystic. He's amazing. But he said the feeling is the secret. And it's true. It's not about seeing it, saying all the mantras, la, 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 la. You want to connect to it. It's not about, act as if you already have it. You need to know that you already are it. Manifesting, cash flow, creativity starts to flow in when you're tapping into that energy right now, not later down the road, one moment when you're better, fixed. How many of us haven't been in the place when we're like, I'm just going to sign a couple of more clients and then I'm going to feel,
Right.
enough better. And it's like, it doesn't really work that way. So connecting to that place, feeling into it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love also how you said that you don't like the spiritual busy work, which is so key. I could not get, well, like I have times and places where I like to meditate and to, put on a guided meditation, but more often than not, I find things alchemized when I'm out in nature, when I'm moving
Mm-hmm.
my body.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, movement. That's another thing.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
time where I was like, everyone was saying, oh, you got to meditate, you got to listen to these things. And I fell into that trap, and I would be skipping my walks. I would be skipping the gym because I have to get these things done. And it doesn't work. Do the thing that works for you. My thing that I love doing in the morning is tapping into something that I'm grateful for, and beyond just,
Mm.
I have a house. I'm so happy for it. But like a little thing that I'm super grateful for. I got a new follower this morning. That means that I'm like on the right path. I'm expanding my world. Something
Yeah,
super, super small that you might otherwise overlook. And just
totally.
plugging nature, going outside. I've been doing morning walks, which I love. But even if I don't have time for a morning walk, just sitting outside in the sun, if it's sunny, it is today, but it has been raining in the last couple of days. But sitting in the sun, listening to the birds sing, just like feeling the earth beneath my feet and feeling like the crisp air on my face, and then being like, all right, let's get the day on. Let's go into what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it just like it sets you up for a great day when you start your mornings that way.
Definitely. And like you said, gratitude, it's something that we all know, but it's often overlooked. It's a simple thing applied consistently over time that will build that snowball, right? And really ripple through the quantum field, bringing more magic, money, and momentum to you now. And gratitude is one of those um, things. It's like a big fat key, that opens up the floodgates of more things to be grateful for. It's so simple, but are you doing it? Like, are you really tapping into feeling what you're grateful for? Because I know that when I do, magic happens. And when I don't, well, not as much, right? It's just like we have that power to actually, it's our attention, because in our perception of reality, we are creating it, right? So where are we placing our attention, and hence our perception? So what we focus on grows.
Yeah, and a lot of people mistake, well, they're like, well, I should be grateful that I have a house and I have food in my mouth and whatever. I have an amazing partner. I have, my family. But that land as much. Those
Mm-hmm.
like really, those special things that you are super grateful for, that time, the extra time you spent in bed this morning with your partner, or like being able to go to the grocery store and not tracking the prices when you buy something, or what.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be the things you should feel grateful for, but the things
Mm-mm.
you feel grateful for in the moment. It makes so much more of a difference. I remember I had one person, I worked with a mindset coach, and she's like, every single morning, journal a page and then write like 5 things you're grateful for. And I would journal, and then I would write things grateful. And I'm like, well, I should be grateful for my house. I should be grateful for this. I should.
Mm-hmm.
And it never really did anything for me. One, I'm not a journaler. I figured that out.
Yeah.
I love my voice, and I actually send voice notes to myself instead of like, that is more activating to me. Talking
Mm-hmm.
out is more activating to me than writing things down. But it just goes out like that. One, find gratitude that you're like feeling in your body, and two, just because to do something doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I feel like those are the biggest takeaways from this live.
Exactly. Like, trust yourself, right? And alignment first to your truth. Right? So exactly, it's not just because it worked for someone else, or like, do this. Well, we shouldn't be shooting on ourselves. Like, are you shooting on yourself? I should feel and I should do. It's like, oh no, we have to come back to truth, what we are actually grateful for. And of course, we can amplify things, and we can shift our perception around things to feel more grateful for things that we potentially were overlooking. One of my favorite metaphysical teachers, RJ Spina, he says, we are often placing, like, we are undervaluing what we do have, and we are overvaluing what we don't have. And that's why you're discontent. And that's why, so how can we actually value what we have and stop the fucking chase of like overvaluing things that we don't have yet? Like, that's one of my passions, right? Of like cutting the chase, how to get people out of this place of chasing something and start to feel chosen instead, to really adapt the identity of, I am the chosen one. I am the one. I am the prize. I am the chosen one. Not from this place of like, I'm better than, and some false sense of hierarchy, which is the ego's way. When we hear these words, chosen, it's like, you think you're better than, that's such an ego thing, right? With the heart is just like, yes, I'm chosen, and so is everyone else. And when we adapt that identity, it's like we stop looking for, other people to validate us, to prove us, and we start to really like, yeah, create reality from the inside out, which is the only way to do anything sustainably in business or anywhere else. So, yeah, feeling like we are chosen now.
Yeah. Well, I have loved this conversation. It's been so my morning. So this is such a good way to start. Is there any last minute like topics or anything you wanted to add before we close out this conversation?
Well, just one thing that crossed my mind, because I love this conversation. I could talk all day because this is, a passion of mine. But so many of us, we ask, right, like, what's my purpose? And we've talked about alignment, like coming back to energetic alignment with our truth and to where we are going. And one of the ways that I've seen, over the years as well, of like how we can actually see, like, am I in alignment with my soul's path and calling, is that we are feeling satisfaction in the moment, in the process of creating the outcomes, more clients, cash flow, income, impact, all of the things that we desire. When it is actually an aligned desire of the soul, in the process of creating it, we feel satisfied. Because I remember the first time I had like a 10K month, I was like, okay, but I hadn't really, I was happy, but it was like next, because I hadn't really done it in the way that it was, completely aligned to my heart and soul. And I've seen the quality of difference, when we are connected to what we actually want to do. And that's why I'm like, it's so valuable to take that extra and to take action, right? Because we can't always find out if we can't overthink. Like, it's not about figuring it out. It's about acting on that, inspiration that we have, getting support, acting, and then taking the feedback of how it makes us feel and being, willing to pivot and to, tweak. It doesn't always mean that you have to pivot, but just tweak so that you are in alignment with your truth. Like you said, that it lights you up, and then you will feel satisfied, not just when you get the whatever K month or the clients or the whatever you want, right? But in the process of creating it. And this is so key, because satisfaction, just like gratitude, is one of those like, magnifiers and magnetizers of magic, money, and momentum, like actually feeling satisfied right now. So I just want to say that it's so valuable to cut the chase and to take the time and effort, because it can be like, I have to feel through these emotions and I have to like work through my inner stuff to actually get into that alignment with our soul's path and purpose and calling, and to dare to take, business from that place forward, because you will feel so satisfied. And that is kind of like the whole holding container as well for being able to move through the challenges that arises on the path, and to not think that challenges are not supposed to happen, right? It's like we will have challenges, and we grow and evolve through challenges. It's okay. It doesn't, just because you're in alignment doesn't mean that it has to be without challenges. But when you are actually on the path of your soul, you will be moving through those. You will have the life force, the plug-in to move through, and you will feel satisfied now, not later one day when you have arrived.
Yeah. How you react to challenges is what makes you a leader. I feel like that's how we end this live stream.
Boom! Yes, exactly.
Well, so much for taking the time to do this collab with me. I had such a blast, and for everyone watching, make sure you follow both of us. And I'm sure I can speak for you, but if you want to continue the conversation, hop into either of our DMs, and we'd love to keep chatting about it. So
definitely.
Thank you so much. I hope we do something again in the future, and I will see you around.
Yes, thank you for inviting me on. I have so enjoyed this. You were such an inspiration, and just thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, I hope you have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, happy Venus Day.
Thank you.
It's Friday, yeah. So have a delicious day. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.